Hey, good morning, class. Welcome in. We're going to have our second discussion, taking a look at some numbers, some statistics. We took a look at GDP last time around. This time, we're going to start taking a look at inflation and deflation. So let's get into each of these. Let's talk about some scenarios, some situations, and we'll look at a particular example I think you guys will find interesting. Okay? All right, here we go. So we're going to correct statistics for inflation. So, what is inflation? So, again, inflation is a prolonged rise in the general price of goods and services. When inflation occurs, the purchasing power of money goes down. So, the value of our money drops. This is what money can buy, and it determines the value of our money. To understand the true measure of a nation's GDP, inflation has to be taken into account. So, when we look at 2020 in the GDP, we look at 2021 in the GDP, we also have to throw in inflation. Okay? Now, deflation. So, deflation also affects the dollar value of the GDP. This is a prolonged decline of the general price of level goods and services. However, this is an event that rarely happens in modern times. In fact, the one example is really kind of what Japan has had to deal with since the mid 1990s. Deflation, stagnation, where again, you see prices dropping, all right, and the value of money actually increasing. But this is, again, a very rare occasion. Now, let's take a look here. This is, again, I'm a big movie fan. I've got a chart here that kind of outlines and gives us an idea just what movie tickets have looked like over the years. So I was trying to find some good movies over the last 40 years or so. So let's start in 1980. $2.69 for a movie ticket. Movie that I selected that did really well at the box office, Empire Strikes Back, again, the second Star Wars film, $290 million total at the box office. In 1993, Jurassic Park, dinosaurs, it's one of the best movies I've ever seen. I love it. I enjoy it. Jurassic Park, the original, in 1993, $4.14 for that movie ticket. It grossed $395 million. 2000, $5.39. That was the average ticket price. A big movie that year was How the Grinch Stole Christmas, Jim Carrey, the live action one, $260 million. 2010, big movie in the box office, one that's one of the sadder movies I've seen, but again, a good feel-good story. Toy Story 3, 2010, average ticket price $7.89. Toy Story 3 brought in $415 million. And let's take a look at 2019, Avengers Endgame. Average ticket price at the time, $9.01. Endgame brought in $631 million. So we see this gradual increase with inflation on our movie tickets. But it happens with everything. It happens with our food. It happens with our clothes. That's what we're seeing here. Now, how do we measure inflation? Well, we have what we call the CPI, or the Consumer Price Index. So this is a statistical measure of the average prices of a specific set of goods and service purchased by consumers in a city area. We also have something called a market basket. These are the groups of items that are priced. This includes about 80,000 specific goods that include food, clothing, and transportation. So we always have to use what we call a base year. CPI is compiled monthly and used as a base year as a reference point. So the base year is the point of comparison for other, in basically a series of statistics. We're using the base year as that comparison year. An example. So say ice cream is $2 in 2018 in the base year, and then it basically is going to go up to $2.50 in 2019. The cost has risen 50 cents since that original year. So we want to look at that original year and what the difference is. Okay? Now we also have something called the Producer Price Index, the PPI. Okay? This is a measure of the change over time that U.S. producers charge for their goods and services. PPI usually increases before CPI. If apple producers have a bad harvest, the price of apples will go up. If they don't get nearly enough apples in a calendar year, again, those prices are going to go up. A bakery that purchases these apples will eventually have to raise their prices as well. You're going to have to increase prices if you're having a hard time getting those apples. Okay? All right, lastly, we have what we call the GDP price deflator. So the GDP price deflator, this is a price index that removes the effect of inflation from the GDP so that the overall economy in one year can be compared to another year. So real GDP, this is a GDP that has been adjusted for inflation. Sometimes when you look at Wikipedia, you look at an almanac, it will say in a little note with an asterisk, it will say adjusted for inflation, okay? So again, 2008 GDP, again, we're looking at 441.2 billion divided by the GDP price deflator. The numbers you can see on the chart there. Again, so actually what it leaves us with is about $13.3 billion after inflation. Okay? So we want to take a look at what inflation can do. We want to take a look at what deflation can do. Understand this. There have been instances of what we call hyperinflation. So hyperinflation is where things get really out of hand. You look at World War I. You look at Germany after World War I. That's where hyperinflation kicks in. Right now in Venezuela, hyperinflation. So I want us to understand this is where things get really, really bad, and basically money has no value. So keep that in mind as we move forward discussing things down the stretch here, okay? All right, folks, no new work today. You're going to finish up Activity 3, and you're going to focus on really kind of putting together your final projects. So I hope you guys have a great day. Take care of yourselves, and have a good one. Bye, everybody.